Book 1, Chapter 35 of Resurrection. During an interval, Nekhludoff got up and went out into the corridor, with the intention of not returning to the court. Let them do what they liked with him. He could take no more part in this awful and horrid tomfoolery. Having inquired where the Procureur's cabinet was, he went straight to him. The attendant did not wish to let him in, saying that the Procureur was busy, but Nekhludoff paid no heed and went to the door, where he was met by an official. He asked to be announced to the Procureur, saying he was on the jury and had a very important communication to make. His title and good clothes were of assistance to him. The official announced him to the Procureur, and Nekhludoff was let in. The Procureur met him standing, evidently annoyed with the persistence with which Nekhludoff demanded admittance. "What is it you want?" the Procureur asked severely. "I am on the jury. My name is Nekhludoff, and it is absolutely necessary for me to see the prisoner Maslova," Nekhludoff said, quickly and resolutely, blushing, and feeling that he was taking a step which would have a decisive influence on his life. The Procureur was a short, dark man with short, grizzly hair, quick, sparkling eyes, and a thick beard cut close on his projecting lower jaw. "Maslova? Yes, of course, I know. She was accused of poisoning," the Procureur said, quietly. "But why do you want to see her?" And then, as if wishing to tone down the question, he added, "I cannot give you the permission without knowing why you require it. I require it for a particularly important reason." "Yes?" said the Procureur, and lifting his eyes, looked attentively at Nekhludoff. "Has her case been heard or not?" "She was tried yesterday and unjustly sentenced. She is innocent." "Yes, if she was sentenced only yesterday," went on the Procureur, paying no attention to Nekhludoff's statement concerning Maslova's innocence, "she must still be in the preliminary detention prison until the sentence is delivered in its final form. Visiting is allowed there only on certain days. I should advise you to inquire there." "But I must see her as soon as possible," Nekhludoff said, his jaw trembling as he felt the decisive moment approaching. "Why must you?" said the Procureur, lifting his brows with some agitation. "Because I betrayed her and brought her to the condition which exposed her to this accusation. All the same, I cannot see what it has to do with visiting her." "This, that whether I succeed or not in getting the sentence changed, I want to follow her and marry her," said Nekhludoff, touched to tears by his own conduct, and at the same time pleased to see the effect he produced on the Procureur. "Really, dear me," said the Procureur, "this is certainly a very exceptional case. I believe you are a member of the Krasnoporsk Rural Administration?" he asked, as if he remembered having heard before of this Nekhludoff, who was now making so strange a declaration. "I beg your pardon, but I do not think that has anything to do with my request," answered Nekhludoff, flushing angrily. "Certainly not," said the Procureur, with a scarcely perceptible smile, and not in the least abashed. "Only your wish is so extraordinary and so out of the common." "Well, but can I get the permission?" "The permission? Yes. I will give you an order of admittance directly. Take a seat." He went up to the table, sat down, and began to write. "Please sit down." Nekhludoff continued to stand. Having written an order of admittance and handed it to Nekhludoff, the Procureur looked curiously at him. "I must also state that I can no longer take part in the sessions." "Then you will have to lay valid reasons before the court, as you of course know." "My reasons are that I consider all judging not only useless but immoral." "Yes," said the Procureur, with the same scarcely perceptible smile, as if to show that this kind of declaration was well known to him and belonged to the amusing sort. "Yes, but you will certainly understand that I as Procureur could not agree with you on this point. Therefore I should advise you to apply to the court, which will consider your declaration and find it valid or not valid, and in the latter case will impose a fine. Apply, then, to the court." "I have made my declaration, and I shall apply nowhere else," Nekhludoff said angrily. "Well, then, good afternoon," said the Procureur, bowing his head, evidently anxious to be rid of this strange visitor. "Who was that you had there?" asked one of the members of the court as he entered, just after Nekhludoff left the room. "Nekhludoff, you know, the same that used to make all sorts of strange statements at the Krasnoporsk rural meetings. Just fancy, he is on the jury, and among the prisoners there is a woman or girl sentenced to penal servitude, whom he says he betrayed, and now he wants to marry her." "You don't mean to say so?" "That's what he told me, and in such a strange state of excitement. There is something abnormal in the young men of today." "Oh, but he is not so very young." "Yes, but how tiresome your famous Ivoshenka was. He carries the day by wearying one out. He talked and talked without end." "Oh, that kind of people should be simply stopped, or they will become real obstructionists." End of Book 1, Chapter 35.
Book 1, Chapter 36 of Resurrection. Nekhludoff endeavors to visit Maslova. From the procureur, Nekhludoff went straight to the preliminary detention prison. However, no Maslova was to be found there, and the inspector explained to Nekhludoff that she would probably be in the old temporary prison. Nekhludoff went there. Yes, Katerina Maslova was there. The distance between the two prisons was enormous, and Nekhludoff only reached the old prison towards evening. He was going up to the door of the large, gloomy building, but the sentinel stopped him and rang. A warder came in answer to the bell. Nekhludoff showed him his order of admittance, but the warder said he could not let him in without the inspector's permission. Nekhludoff went to see the inspector. As he was going up the stairs, he heard distant sounds of some complicated bravura played on the piano. When a cross servant girl with a bandaged eye opened the door to him, those sounds seemed to escape from the room and to strike his car. It was a rhapsody of Liszt's that everybody was tired of, splendidly played, but only to one point. When that point was reached, the same thing was repeated. Nekhludoff asked the bandaged maid whether the inspector was in. She answered that he was not in. "Will he return soon?" The rhapsody again stopped and recommenced loudly and brilliantly, again up to the same charmed point. "I will go and ask," and the servant went away. "Tell him he is not in, and won't be today. He is out visiting. What do they come bothering for?" came the sound of a woman's voice from behind the door, and again the rhapsody rattled on and stopped, and the sound of a chair pushed back was heard. It was plain the irritated pianist meant to rebuke the tiresome visitor who had come at an untimely hour. "Papa is not in," a pale girl with crimped hair said crossly, coming out into the anteroom, but seeing a young man in a good coat, she softened. "Come in, please. What is it you want?" "I want to see a prisoner in this prison." "A political one, I suppose?" "No, not a political one. I have a permission from the procureur." "Well, I don't know, and Papa is out. But come in, please," she said again, "or else speak to the assistant. He is in the office at present. Apply there. What is your name?" "I thank you," said Nekhludoff without answering her question, and went out. The door was not yet closed after him when the same lively tones recommenced. In the courtyard Nekhludoff met an officer with bristly moustaches and asked for the assistant inspector. It was the assistant himself. He looked at the order of admittance, but said that he could not decide to let him in with a pass for the preliminary prison. Besides, it was too late. "Please to come again tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 everybody is allowed to go in. Come then, and the inspector himself will be at home. Then you can have the interview either in the common room or, if the inspector allows it, in the office." And so Nekhludoff did not succeed in getting an interview that day and returned home. As he went along the streets, excited at the idea of meeting her, he no longer thought about the law courts, but recalled his conversations with the procureur and the inspector's assistant. The fact that he had been seeking an interview with her, and had told the procureur, and had been in 2 prisons, so excited him that it was long before he could calm down. When he got home, he at once fetched out his diary, that had long remained untouched, read a few sentences out of it, and then wrote as follows. "For 2 years I have not written anything in my diary, and thought I never should return to this childishness. Yet it is not childishness, but converse with my own self, with this real divine self which lives in every man. All this time that I slept there was no one for me to converse with. I was awakened by an extraordinary event on the 28th of April, in the law court, when I was on the jury. I saw her in the prisoner's dock, the Katusha betrayed by me, in a prisoner's cloak, condemned to penal servitude through a strange mistake, and my own fault. I have just been to the procuror's and to the prison, but I was not admitted. I have resolved to do all I can to see her, to confess to her, and to atone for my sin, even by a marriage. God help me. My soul is at peace, and I am full of joy. End of Book 1, Chapter 36.